Hi, this is Dan Bloom with Asia Dating Tips, and I'm here with RedpoleQ, founder of Pickupasia.com.
Hey.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you, man?
Good, yeah. Sleepy.
Sleepy? All right.
Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about dating Asian women. Do you think that...
My favorite topic.
Do you think it's easier? Like, is it fair when people say, like, oh, well, dating Asian women is quote-unquote easy?
Okay, so first of all, when they say easy, they mean in terms of like it's easy to get an Asian girlfriend, or what do they mean?
I guess, like, for example, like, if a guy in the West would come to Asia and would find himself more able to find himself having dates with Asian women and not needing to put as much effort.
Okay. So, yes and no. Okay, so first of all, there's some guys who, when they come to Asia, they find it easier because they are considered attractive by Asian standards, even though they may not be above average or significantly above average in their own country. So if so think of it like this: if you're in the West and you're a woman and you're in shape, then you have a lot more dating options because very few women, as a percentage, are in shape. So the same thing happens as a Westerner when you come to Asia, because you're a rarity. It can be easier for you, but this doesn't apply to all guys. It just varies because Asians seem to have a particular taste, and if you match that particular taste, then it'll be much easier for you. So that's the first thing.
Okay.
So there are a large percentage of guys that don't feel that it's any easier. The second thing is that when guys first come to Asia, because Asian women are in shape, because they spend a lot of time and attention on their makeup and their hair, and because they spend a lot of time on their appearance, there are a lot of Asian women that are very average by their local standards, but by Western standards look very attractive. So a lot of times Western guys will date women that are not particularly attractive by their own standards. And that's another example, because Western guys tend to have different tastes in Asian women. Western guys who like Asian women generally prefer Asian women that have a more Asian, quote-unquote, Asian look, whereas local guys generally prefer Asian women who have a more foreign look. So that can also make it easier. But oftentimes, guys early on, when they first come to Asia, they find it very easy, but that's because they have a woman in their environment who they think is really hot. And, like when I first moved to, my first girlfriend, I thought she was really hot. She wore these high-heeled snakeskin boots, and I never dated a girl who wore high-heeled snakeskin boots before. So it was hot. But she wasn't really that hot, but it was only after I spent more time in Asia that I started to realize what real hot was.
Okay. What real hot based on like Asian standards?
Well, not only on Asian standards, but also my tastes became more refined. Because It wasn't like, oh, she's wearing snakeskin high-heeled boots and she's thin and dressed up well and wearing makeup. It was like, oh yeah, but I started like being really particular about things like skin, right? So now, generally speaking,
like how good her skin felt.
Yeah. As an example, where I was more inclined to give that sort of thing a pass before because of the other traits. Now I want all of that. Plus, I also want the good skin. Plus, I also want the certain behavioral patterns or things that I like, and it just sort of my taste narrowed over time.
Would you say that?
And I'd say that that's very common of guys who spend a lot of time in Asia.
Do you think that dating Asian women is easier, quote unquote, for an economic perspective? Like a lot of women, because the foreigners seem to have more money, or because they want they want to have more money, that they would actually go on dating Western men.
Okay, so that's not true. Well, that varies from country to country. So actually even beyond that, but it varies from country to country, and it varies also from city to city. So if you are in Tokyo, for example, or let's use a country example. Okay, so let's use Hong Kong. So in Hong Kong, if you're a foreigner, you're expected to have a lot of money. So if you don't have a lot of money, I wouldn't say, girls prefer guys who have money. Okay, that's pretty much across the board. But really what it's about is what their expectations are. So in Hong Kong, because the culture is that as a foreigner, you're some high-level executive or a banker, they're expecting you to have money. So if you don't have money, it's not that girls won't like you, but it's, you're competing with guys who do have money, and you're competing with their expectations of a foreign guy who has money.
Right.
Now, if you are in, let's say, Tokyo, there are some girls who are after guys who, Western guys who have money, right? Because there are, or there used to be until the financial issues recently, a lot of Western bankers, or a lot more Western bankers in Tokyo. And so there were girls who specifically were looking for those guys. But on the whole, Japanese women don't expect, outside of that subset who travel in the circles where they can meet bankers or executives or those sorts of guys, as a whole, they don't expect Westerners to have a lot of money because most are English teachers and or in the military.
Right, okay.
So they don't expect them to have a lot of money. Now, if you use and that's also the case in Korea, where they don't expect Westerners to have, particularly a lot of money, even though Westerners actually do have quite a bit of money.
Right.
Ironically, on the other hand, in China, Westerners tend to have a good deal of money, but I don't think that Chinese girls are looking for money that much, because most of the Chinese girls that Westerners date are, by Chinese standards, also pretty rich, at least like upper middle class.
Right.
Because those are the ones that can, get an education well enough to speak English. But I think that could change if you go more into, second or third tier cities. But there's not a lot of foreigners there, so it's really hard to say. But I would say that in the major cities, they're not dating foreigners for money.
Right.
However, in, if you're talking about Southeast Asia, then the money component is a major factor in places like Thailand, and maybe also in Singapore. That's kind of unclear, I think, at this point, because there aren't that many guys who are involved in pickup in Singapore, Western guys, and that's very likely because they are high-level executives. And and women there are intent on status and money, and so they don't really need to develop skills so much to pick up because of that.
Right.
And I would say that's the same for Hong Kong as well. And so what happens is that when you're in that sort of environment, then there aren't nearly as many people who are into learning these skills, because women are after them because of their status and because of their money.
Right. In Southeast Asia.
In Southeast Asia, yeah, but it happens more in Southeast Asia because there's higher income differentials.
So these days, if for example you come to Asia, you live in Asia, if you don't have a certain set of social skills, or if you weren't able to have dates in your home country, then in Asia you still might have a hard time. Or
okay, so yeah, you could say that. So in the West, because women are mainly brought up to believe that they should be able to take care of themselves financially. Being successful financially, unless you're really, really, significantly financially successful, so in the West, I'd say if you make, $50,000 a year or something like that, that's, or let's say, that's, and you live in a major city. Obviously, if you live, not in a major city, then that's really a lot of money. But if you live in New York or Boston, or that's not amazing amounts of money. There's lots of people making that amount, and there's lots of people making a lot more than you. So anyway, but if you're making like $60,000, and you're in your late 20s or early 30s, and you're in the West, that's not going to really turn any women on. They're not going to go, oh my God, wow, let me get after this guy who's making $50,000 or $60,000. However, if you're in Asia, the fact that you have a steady job with a good income is a lot more meaningful. So in the West, the girl will be much more focused on your personality, and she'll go, okay, well, what's his personality like? And so if you don't